I am not exaggerating when I say this is the most fun I've ever had with a build in PvE since the final shape dropped. You can spam grenades every 5 seconds, you can get Transcendent in every 10 seconds. It's a great build for ad clear, very good for high health enemies, and incredible for survivability. Without further ado, let's just get straight into the explanation. Starting with the exotic of choice, it's obviously the brand new Rime-coat Raiment exotic for the Warlocks. Now this exotic essentially just buffs your Bleak Watcher turret. It lets it spawn stasis crystals around it periodically, and any target which is near the Bleak Watcher will be slowed. It kind of looks like a little rift kind of thing, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think that it buffs the Bleak Watcher damage as well, but don't quote me on that. And another thing this exotic does is it gives you a little stasis buddy when you're standing in the Bleak Watcher rift kind of thing, and it does linger for a few seconds when you leave it, but we're not going to be making much use out of that. It's mainly with the crystals and the slowing kind of thing, but maybe in the future for a GM kind of build it might be decent for that. The subclass we're going to be using is Prismatic. Of course you can use this on stasis, but Prismatic is just infinitely better. The aspects we're going to be using are Devour for great survivability and the grenade spam of course, and Bleak Watcher because that's what the exotic is centered around. For the class ability you can use a healing rift for a bit of healing, but I do personally prefer the Phoenix dive, mainly for the orb pickup and the insta heals, and of course just the faster cooldown in general. The melee of choice is going to be the Incinerator Snap. This melee is a very good pairing with the amount of freezing we're going to be doing, and we're going to be using it quite a bit to get our light transcendence energy up. Now the grenade ability doesn't really matter because when you just have Bleak Watcher equipped, it means the cooldown of your grenade is always going to be the same as a cold snap. But I run healing nade as a big just in case kind of thing. In case I need the instant health, I can just throw it at my feet. Honestly, I've never really used that with this build. You're always going to want to be turning it into a stasis turret anyway, so it really doesn't matter what your nade is. The super doesn't really matter, but I do use Nova Bomb myself, and I'll get into that in just a minute. It's to do with the weapon and the matching element, mainly for the armor mods and making them a lot cheaper. That's literally it. And of course, Nova Bomb is great for damage, so it's pretty much the obvious pick. Now for the fragments, this is what I found to be the most potent combo for ability spam. You can change a few of these for different builds and different activities, but this is what I found to be the best. Facet of Command, this one will reload your guns when you freeze an enemy. It's on a 5-second cooldown, which isn't that bad to be honest, and it also gives you stasis shards when you kill a frozen enemy. And when you're in Transcendence, of course the nade does a bit of void damage, and it suppresses, so it will give you a void Vussy when you do that, and you kill an enemy of course. The stasis shard is good for giving melee, and the void is good for giving your class ability, and they both have a use which we'll get into in just a bit. Next we have Facet of Sacrifice. This one will give you Darkness Transcendence energy when you get an ability kill when you have Devour active, and with this build that's essentially all of the time. The next fragment is Ruin. This will make your Shattering do more damage in a bigger radius, and also give your Ignition from the Incinerator Snap a larger radius too. Devotion is the next one, and that one's for more light energy when you defeat a Darkness debuff target, which is essentially all the time in this build, so that's always proccing. And last is Facet of Balance, which will let you get more melee energy when you get rapid light kills, and it will give you more grenade energy when you get rapid darkness kills, and that is great for obvious reasons. So that's all the fragments. Of course, like I said before, you can change a few things around, but now let's move on to the weapons. There's only one weapon that you really want to be using here, and this is what really brings the build all together. It's going to be the Fighting Lion. It was recently buffed to apply a volatile burst when you get a direct hit, and that volatile explosion does damage nearby targets too, so that is very good for ad clearing of course. Now the main attraction to Fighting Lion over something like the new grenade launcher, the Alethonim, I think that's what it's called, is the fact that it can auto reload when you kill anything damaged by your grenade ability, or when you kill an enemy which has been damaged by your Fighting Lion, but you have to kill them with something which isn't your Fighting Lion, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is if you shoot the Fighting Lion at an enemy but you don't kill them, then you swap to another weapon or just pop your super, kill them with anything else which isn't the Fighting Lion, it will reload the Fighting Lion. Now all of this paired with the Facet of Command, you essentially never have to manually reload the Fighting Lion, it's always getting reloaded for you. Now of course there will be times where you have to reload it yourself, but if everything goes smoothly then you don't really ever have to reload it, and that is really nice to have, especially on a grenade launcher. Now Fighting Lion, the reason why I prefer it so much over the new one is literally mainly because of the auto reloading, and the volatile burst is also super nice for ad clearing, and the volatile burst pairs really well with the freezing that we're going to be doing. So we're going to be having freezing, shattering, ignitions, and the volatile, so many different area of effect abilities going on. So yeah, Fighting Lion is insane. You can do this build with the other one, I'm not going to pronounce the name again, but you know the new one. You're just going to have to find more ways of speccing into getting the light energy back. Now let's move on to the armor mods. On the helmet I'm running Ashes to Assets and Hands On for the super energy. You can get your super back super quick with this build, and I've also got Void Siphon on for every other Fighting Lion kill. This is the reason I'm running Nova Bomb, just so I can afford all of this with good stats still. On the arms I run double kickstart for the grenade energy refund, and impact induction to get more grenade energy when I use my Incinerator Snap, and the chest piece is just for resist mods. You can maybe run the one which gives you an extra armor charge, but I wouldn't bother to be honest. For the legs I have one Void Surge, one Innovation for the grenade energy on the orb pickups, and Elemental Charge for more armor charge when you pick up the stasis shards, which you get from Facet of Command. Now the reason I only run one Void Surge compared to 2 or even 3 is because I use grenade kick kickstart, which will drain all my armor charges anyway. But I still like to have one just in the cases where if I do mess up the build or whatever, let's say I throw a nade into nothing and then it doesn't hit anyone, there's going to be a bit more downtime on my grenade, so the surge is nice in those kind of situations. Lastly, for the class item, we have Bomber and Outreach for grenade and melee energy regen when you use the Phoenix Dive, and we've also got Powerful Attraction to pick up all the nearby orbs. So these are all the armor mods. You can change a few around, but this is what I found to be the best. Stats wise, I would recommend focusing on resilience first, of course, like any other build, and then go to discipline and then strength. The fragments surprisingly don't have any negatives, so you can actually get your stats pretty high to get you that triple 100 much easier. So now talking about the build, the main loop of it, you essentially just throw the stasis turret into at least one enemy. That should hopefully freeze or at least slow them. Then you can shoot them with firing line. That should auto reload your firing line, so then you could shoot another shot. And the reason that automatically reloads your firing line is because the freezing or the slowing actually counts as grenade damage, and that will proc the firing line's exotic perk, which will reload it. That's essentially the gist of it. Now the times you want to be using your incinerator snap is when you have a frozen target, like a group of them, or just a group of targets, or just a high health target. And don't forget to look downwards at their feet when you do use the snap. That should almost guarantee the ignition, and then when you do that, that should give you a lot of grenade energy back, because that ignition also does give you your grenade energy back. Now when it comes to getting your transcendence, it's also very quick. The nades and the shattering and facet of sacrifice all together give you insane darkness energy. And for the light energy, you got your melee, you got the fighting line, and you got facet of devotion. On top of all of that, you'll get the Nova Bomb pretty quick too, so that's a pretty good panic pop super if you need instant devour for the increased health regen, or not the increased health regen, sorry, the instant health. Now when it comes to changing things about the build, there are a few things that you can swap out, one of them being the facet of sacrifice. In harder content, you can run facet of courage for the extra damage to your Nova Bomb and your incinerator snap to darkness affected targets, and of course with our bleak watchers, essentially everything will be affected by darkness. But to be honest, I do prefer the transcendence spam a lot more. Having the transcendence up is super nice. And in harder content, you can swap the innovation leg mod for the recuperation leg mod. That just gives you healing for every orb you pick up. It's not really needed, but maybe in GMs or maybe slightly harder like master raids or master dungeons, something like that, it might be useful there, and that will of course sacrifice some grenade spam, but not too much I don't think. And you can also take the helmet mods, ashes to acids and hands on for something else like the heavy ammo finder and heavy ammo scout. It would be a lot more useful for the whole team and probably in raids and stuff. You can swap a fair amount of things out of this build and with other things, but what I showed in this video is what I found to be the best. It's the most effective for spamming nades, transcendence, and even supers. It's honestly a very fun build. I highly recommend everyone to try this. You can use this in any content, literally any content, and I can guarantee that you will be top fragging in every single activity. Unless someone else is using this build, then you might have some competition. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know if you want to see more PvE builds by commenting down below or just by liking the video. That way I know you guys want to see them. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye bye now.